Hello everyone, my name is Shambhavi. Hope you all are doing well. Now today we'll be discussing about the difference between the Selenium IDE and the WebDriver. Okay, so this is what we are going to follow up today. We'll be discussing about the Selenium IDE versus the Selenium WebDriver, right? So I would not waste up too much of time into the introduction because we are already very much familiar that what Selenium IDE is and what Selenium WebDriver actually is, right? We are already very familiar with all of these things. So I'll move forward and quickly jump upon to the differences between both of these, right? So we'll start writing the difference, the difference, the difference between Selenium WebDriver and the difference between both. I will simply write that, okay? The difference between both is, so let's write out the very first one. That's the Selenium IDE, Integrated Development Environment. For IDE, the full form is Integrated Development Environment, okay? So the Selenium IDE is a tool, is a tool for recording test cases and for playback and for the playback of those. Let me just get down and get out some space. So Selenium IDE is a tool for recording of the test cases and for playback of those test cases, okay? Test cases, fine. So this is what Selenium IDE is actually about. It is one of the tools which is used for the recording of the test cases, and even it is used for the playback of those test cases, right? This is the idea regarding the WebDriver, the IDE, okay? And if I talk about the Selenium WebDriver now, so if I write about the Selenium, and here goes the WebDriver. Okay, if I write about the Selenium WebDriver, so in that respective case, okay, Selenium WebDriver, it is a tool. Selenium WebDriver is a tool for writing test cases. Use for writing test cases in basically it is a program in programming language. I would just remind in programming. Okay, in programming I would mention. So Selenium WebDriver is a tool which is used for writing of the test cases wherever required and whatever the language it is required. In that relevant case, it is used for writing up the test cases. And if I talk about the IDEs, so it is one of the tools which is used for the recording of the test cases, and even it is used for the playback of those test cases, right? So this is the idea in regards to the IDE and the WebDriver, okay? Now, next in point number 2. If I talk about the next, first we'll be moving toward the Selenium. Now, if I talk about the Selenium WebDriver, so Selenium WebDriver, it is an automation testing tool. I would mention it is one of a very useful and one of a very used automation testing tool which we have here in the WebDriver. Okay, in which we have the Selenium WebDriver. Okay. But if I in the similar manner, if I talk about the IDE, so but IDE is actually not. The reason is that it's limited in its approach of building up the test cases. So it is limited in the approach of building up the test cases, right? It in that respective case, okay. So that is the idea regarding the WebDriver and the IDE. Now what I would do is that I would just take you to my previous of the slide right here. And here also we discussed about some differences between the IDE and WebDriver. Now let's take out a very quick review over that. So if we talk about the IDE, so it is an add-on that is only supported by the Firefox. So IDE, that is Integrated Development Environment, is one of the add-ons which is only supported by the Firefox browser, not more than that. Okay, not any other browser than that. But WebDriver is one of the tools which works with many of the browsers like Firefox, Internet Explorer, Chrome, Opera, for with everyone. Okay. So the very one the difference between those. Second is that it brings WebDriver brings one of the most, sorry, one second. Okay, here is the IDE. Okay, so IDE brings one of the most valuable record and playback feature. Okay, as I mentioned in this as well, that IDE is having one of the most valuable records and the playback features, right? In the same manner, if I talk about the WebDriver, in that case, so WebDriver, it cannot use it for the reading and the recording and playback. So WebDriver is not used in that respective case. It doesn't allow us the recording and the playback things using a Selenium WebDriver, right? Now, again, if I talk about the Selenium IDE, so in IDE, the core engine depends on to the JavaScript. So in the Selenium IDE, the core engine of this respective depends on to the JavaScript. And if I talk about this respective, and this is the one next which we are having up here for the WebDriver. So it has a native integration with the browsers. Okay, it has a native integration with the browsers respect to the different of programming languages. Fine. Next, if I talk about the IDE, so IDE has a UI interface to work with the test script. Okay, IDE has a UI interface to test with to work with the test scripts. But if I talk about the WebDriver, so WebDriver is a full-fledged API and language like Java, Python, etc. So it supports all of the APIs and the languages like the Javas, Python, etc. Okay, now next if I talk about the IDE once again. So IDE is one of the is independent of the Selenium server to run the script. Okay, IDE is independent means for using up the Selenium IDE, you as well need to use up the Selenium server in which you will be able to run up the script. But if I talk about the WebDriver, so in that case server is not needed anymore to run the script. So in that case server is not at all needed for running of the test scripts in that respective case for the like it's for the WebDriver, right? So these are some basic differences in regards to the IDE and the WebDriver. Now let me come back here and let me move forward to the rest of the things. Okay. Now in the WebDriver, what you can do is that you can use your programming in WebDriver. You could use your programming skills. You can use your programming skills for you can use your programming skills for developing the test case for developing the test case logic for developing up the test case logic in WebDriver, right? In WebDriver, as I mentioned, so in WebDriver you can use your programming skills for developing the test case logic. And now in the same manner, if I talk about the IDE, so here I would mention of that Selenium IDE. So Selenium, and here goes the IDE. So Selenium IDE, in this we have to make the like whatever that appears onto the Firefox browser screen, we have to make that do only. Let me just get down, write that thing. So in Selenium IDE, in this perspective, we have to make do with whatever appears on your Firefox browser screen, Firefox browser screen, and performs on them. Okay, so as I mentioned, IDE only and only works on the Firefox, but WebDriver has many platforms onto which it works out. So for the IDE, we have to make do with whatever appears on the Firefox browser screen, and it performs on them only. Right, so hope you got out a very clear idea regarding the differences between the IDE and the WebDriver. That what are the differences between the Selenium IDE and the Selenium WebDriver. Right. So this is all for this video. Till then, thank you and take care.